in to the Cy Tell Us TV show. Cy will be good to you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Cy Tell Us TV show. Oops, get my mic. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Cy Tell Us TV show. Today is Tuesday, February 11th, 2020, and you're watching the Cy Tell Us TV show, broadcast through Status Network, the future of broadcasting in Atlanta, Georgia. Woo, Atlanta, Georgia. And I have my handsome grandson, the co-host, Cam'Ron Maxwell, with me today. And today we're just going to be talking about, hold on. Oh, I'm getting social media. Today we're going to be talking about violence in our school systems. A topic that I wish we didn't have to ever bring up or ever even discuss, but unfortunately we do. And even today, my grandson experienced a little violence in the school system. He's in the 7th grade, and a fight broke out at his school today, and amongst girls, for goodness sake. And he's just an innocent bystander and accidentally got scratched, there during that fight. So that was really something that's very unfortunate for our children today, that you guys even have to experience that. So I apologize, because no one should never be negatively touched in any situation. That's never, never a good thing. But again, welcome to the Cy Tell Us TV show. And just want to remind you that the Cy Tell Us TV show on second Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, broadcast in Atlanta, Georgia, Status Network, the future of broadcasting. We broadcast on Roku, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, Amazon, Fire Stick, pretty much wherever you see a social media outlet, Status Network is there. You can also download the Status Network app on the Play Store, and you'll be seeing me interact on my phone as I tune in and make sure everyone is aware that we are broadcasting live right now and tagging them in. But Cam'Ron, tell them right quick, unfortunately, about what happened today at school, about the situation you were in, and then explain to us and let us know about, what the climate is like at your school. What are the behaviors of the students? Do they have fights there all the time? Is it an environment where all the students are always in fear? What's going on? Tell the Cy Tell Us fans, please, about the experience of what you had experienced today, and then unfortunately about, how frequently or hopefully infrequently they do have those negative situations as far as violence is concerned. So again, Cy Tell Us fans, again, this is my grandson Cam'Ron, and he's the co-host today, and let them know. And let me pull this up.
I'm going to start it from start to end, as much detail as I can do. So the start of it, this one girl was talking about some other girl's dead friend, which was messed up in the first place, because talking smack about dead people was just wrong in the first place. It's disrespectful. So the person got mad, and she said, "Don't talk about my dead friend like that." And then the girl was talking smack, was like, "What you gonna do about it?" And apparently she did do something about it. Then another friend came out of nowhere and just just came out of nowhere.
Wow.
Just jumped in the middle of it. And they started fighting. They started jumping this one girl. And then I'm just walking around. So I'm just walking around, just minding my business. It's a fight. Doing what I do. Just walking to class. And then all of a sudden, I turn around. The fight's just moving towards me. And I'm like, whoa, what the heck? What do I do? Mm-hmm. So, they're swinging their arms like this, all the way back, and then just keep on going back and forth and back and forth.
Wow.
And it was 3 people, so it was different. And I was the fight was just, the momentum was just coming towards me. So, so I was in the side of the hallway, a wall. Mm-hmm. So I was in the hallway on the side of a wall, trying to avoid the fight, and I as little to do with it as possible, because they're probably gonna call witnesses, be and ask the students who were in the fight, who saw the fight, and who knows exactly what happened and why it started. Right. And they're gonna say a bunch of names. So I'm not trying to do all that. So I'm just gonna walk to class.
So I need a little bit of clarity. I just want to understand because again, I was logging on my Facebook to tag everyone to let them know how to get to my page on there as well. So, were you in the hallway and the fight broke out?
I was
or
in the fight.
what had happened?
I was in the hallway and the fight started. I was coming from gym, which is where most things happen because it's gym.
Right.
And my friend said it all started on the bus about the talking smack, but that's not the point.
Right.
So basically, hold on, can you restate the question again? I'm just getting wrapped up in myself.
No, I was wanting to know that when this fight happened today at school, were you just walking down the hallway and everything was normal and then the fight took place? Or, I mean, how did you come even in contact with the fight? I mean, was it in the hallway you said? Was it in the classroom?
It was in the hallway. So like
you were in the hallway, was this doing, you guys exchanging class, going from one classroom to the other?
Yes.
Okay.
We were going to Connections because like our 7th grade pod is like in like, let's say it's in this side of the building, and Connections is all the way on this side of the building. So we went around the building, like outside, and then there's this side door that we went through. We went through this side door, and right now we're about to enter the 7th grade pod. That's right here. So we enter the 7th grade pod, and then these girls just start talking like, wait, don't they're talking about the dead person and talking smack about him. Like,
Right.
Don't talk smack about my dead best friend. That's disrespectful. She said, what you gonna do
So
about
that's
it?
what they started arguing about is
Yeah, that's
the girls were arguing. One of the other little girls had said something negative about the other one's deceased friend.
yes, which was not right.
That's not good.
Yeah, that was pretty messed up.
Okay.
You don't usually talk about a dead person.
Is this a call? Hold on.
I think it is. First caller.
No, I don't think it is. Okay.
Oh,
I
that's
think that was
tough.
just the volume. Okay, so but that's how it started. So, but you didn't hear how it actually began, or you just heard them having those negative words of exchange during the fight.
I just heard them scream out, "Don't talk back! Don't talk smack!"
Oh,
about
before
my
they
dead
start
best friend."
literally hitting each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
okay.
they put their stuff down the norm, like they have their stuff. They're just like, hold on, let me just take my whole purse off. Hold my phone, like this.
Not cool.
Yeah. So they just walked up. They're like, "What you gonna do about it?" And they started smacking down. And this one friend came out of nowhere, just rushing, and boom. I was like,
Bummer.
dang. So, they started grabbing each other's hair, which is pretty normal, I guess, or unusual. But anyways, they started grabbing each other's hair, just hitting them back and forth in the head. I was like,
So, apparently, because this sounds like this was going on for at least a minute or so, which is a long time for a fight.
it was like a 30-second fight because not a lot of teachers were there.
Okay,
But
as soon
actually-
as it broke, in the hallway they don't have monitors. Some of the teachers are in the
No,
hallway.
they do, but we just came back from gym like really, really fast. That's why it
Okay,
lasted like a
okay.
good 10 seconds before a teacher actually came in. Because the 7th grade pod is far away, is like down the hall from the 6th grade pod. A 6th grade teacher ran all the way across the pod to break up the fight.
Well, now, were the other children watching, taking their cell phones, trying to take pictures? What were their reactions?
I don't know.
And
of
about how
anyone.
many students were there while this was going on?
There were about, I believe it was about like 25, 30 students, like a whole classroom worth of students. No, it was practically like it was like half of the gym class, which is
Wow.
really large.
What, 50, 75?
No, not about
30?
75. It's
Okay.
about 75 people in the gym, maybe. Actually, no, we have like a smaller gym class, but today some of the teachers were out, so they went to gym.
Wow.
So the students went to gym. So those students, so it was like 100 students. So like there were 50 students coming from gym watching the fight. But only 25 of them were actually watching it because the other 25 hadn't come in the building yet.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's how the fight broke out. But back to what I was saying, like how I was just walking to class. I'm walking to class, holding my binder, like as usual, walking the 4th period, going to science, I already know. Got 95 in there, big brain, I already know. So I was walking to science, and then I see a fight break out. I'm like, okay, I'm going to just get out of here because I'm not trying to, they call witnesses into the office, like a whole thing. It's basically a thing. So,
Well, yeah, because they want to get the truth, hopefully, and if they listen to enough of the students and so many certain percentages are telling the same story without discussing what they're going to say to each other, they can get the truth out of it to see. But does the school have cameras?
I believe they do.
Okay, so I'm gonna have
I'm
to
not.
ask.
I'm not 100%
I've never
sure.
seen any cameras when I've been up there. I've never noticed that, and I'm sure if they had cameras, I'm sure they would let that be known. Just nothing else to let the children know that, hey, we are monitoring you, so we can try and maintain your safety. So therefore, we will always have our cameras rolling. So they've never had that type of discussion with you guys.
Not
Next
that
time
I
I go
know
up there
of.
to a meeting, I'm going to inquire and ask about that. So let me ask you this: what is normally the temperament of the students at your school? Is it a violent school, or is this just somewhat of a rarity where fights are not the norm every day, every week? Because some schools, unfortunately, fights break out every day.
Yeah, it's not really a good thing.
Okay, so what's the temperament of your school? Because
So-
to me, this is, I think, the first fight that I've actually heard about since you've been there, and you've been there going on a year and a half almost. So, do they have a lot of fights every week, every month? How often are they having,
At the start of
negative confrontations?
honestly, at the start of the school, like at the start of 7th grade, and at the end of 6th grade, people were fighting a lot because I think
Well, you
it's just-
began the school November 2018
yeah.
in the 6th grade. So that's a year and almost 3-4 months. November, December, January, February. Okay, in a year and 3 months.
Yeah, okay. So like at the end of 6th grade, students were fighting a lot because it's like the last couple days of school.
I wonder why.
Because they thought that it's the last couple days of school, they can just get everything out and then just not
Well, what do you
come.
mean get everything out? What do you mean by
Like
that?
everything that they're holding in, like, oh, I'm gonna fight this person, but I don't know when.
Well,
so
and
they do it
that's-
at the last couple days of school.
And that's unfortunate, but again, one should be able to express themselves and get everything out, but not negatively, physically.
yeah,
You understand what I'm saying? So it's unfortunate that those children have that mindset. Is that the way you feel? That you ever want to get everything out and have a fight with someone and negatively touch them or anything? What do you think are some of the reasons that children have those type of thoughts and mindsets to feel as though that they're wanting to communicate with each other and they want to communicate about a disagreement apparently, which brings about anger? But do you think that when a child or even an adult are having negative confrontations, do you think it needs to be negative physical touch, which meaning a fight, just to be duking it out?
nah, it doesn't have to always settle in fighting, even though for a lot of the times, and you hear in a bunch of documentaries, guys, they box stuff out. That's how they handle it. That's
Right.
not always how they need
But
to
that's
handle
fair
it.
game.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
they're
how they
not-
can handle it,
right,
but that's
a
not.
great way to do that.
But that's not like 101% necessary.
Mm-hmm.
You can always talk it out, but if it's really, really necessary,
Right?
then punching gloves and helmets. Punching gloves, helmet, headgear, just make sure no one gets hurt
Right.
really badly. As long as you have, like, if you want to settle something, like, at least have it planned out, like a headgear, mouthpiece, punching gloves, so no one actually gets physically
Well,
hurt.
right, well, that's what you call fair fighting.
Yeah, it's
you
like-
know, and
or-
of course they're not fighting like I don't know what you call it, but the people who win the belt, the world champion. I mean, because some of them unfortunately are having fights and boxing professionally, but they're getting cut and really hurt, things like that. So I think the boxing that you're referring to, as far as them partaking in that,
No, like
they don't
legit
really hurt
boxing.
themselves like that.
No,
Say-
but like legit boxing.
Well, I haven't seen boxing since I was probably 3 years younger than you. Since I was 8 years old, I don't think a lot of them got scarred up or anything like that. I really don't believe that. But let me get this call. But first, let me I'm on social media because I'm so appreciative of anyone that's ever watching the Side Tell Us TV show. So I want to give a shout out to Antoinette, Heavenly Eyes, Lewis Ellis is watching, and Carlos Porter is watching. Thank you guys for watching the Side Tell Us show. We really appreciate that. And we have 6 other viewers that are watching as well. I don't know why this thing won't let me scroll up and acknowledge you. But you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We've got to see your face. You know you can't do that. But thank you for calling the Side Tell Us TV show. Please state your name and what city you're calling from, please.
Hi, Fi. This is Cece calling from Bronx, New York.
Oh, hi, Cece. How are you? One of our faithful callers. We appreciate you every time for calling. You know that.
You're welcome. Well, how are you all doing?
We're doing fine on this nice night. It's always raining every time I have a show, and I think that's so funny because it's beginning to be just like a guarantee.
It's like the norm now.
Yeah, it's a.
But that's a good luck then.
But I just thank God for traveling mercies. I don't take it for granted anymore. That whenever I'm commuting, I don't care if it's a mile or if it's a road trip going to Florida, I don't take any of that for granted anymore. So I thank God for getting us here safely. I really, really do. I really, really do. But thank you so much for calling in. We really appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to catch the beginning, but I did catch the part where your grandson spoke about, I guess, during the end of his 6th grade year and the beginning of his 7th grade year.
Right,
that there was a lot of fights in the school, and he was saying that, I guess it was due to some of the students wanting to get out some of their aggression or to get out some things that they had to be feeling that they couldn't do so during the beginning or the duration of the school year. It was kind of brought to, I'm just curious because I'm a social worker, are there any counseling services in the school, like counselors where the students can go and speak to someone?
Yes.
Or
Yes, there are.
Yes, they do have counselors in the school.
They have.
Does it have to be referrals? I'm not sure if you know this. Is it referral based, or if the child says, I want to speak to someone, and they can just go immediately, or how does it work? Do you know?
I don't necessarily know because I've never had to go there because I've never really had any issues like that. But it might or might not be. I'm not the person to ask for that because I couldn't be able to give the correct answer.
The reason why I asked because I have a friend who is actually transitioning her or changing careers. From corporate America, working for the government, and she's beginning to teach, and she's realizing that there's a lot of behavioral issues that she's experiencing with some of the students in her classroom. And sometimes people just think, oh, this child or these children are bad, and X, Y, and Z, or the parent isn't invested, and the parent doesn't care, and they're not, to continue what is being taught in the classroom and bring it home. But coming from a social worker and having that background, it's much more than just the child is bad. There's so many different variables that play a part into someone's behavior, whether a child or an adult.
Exactly.
And, of course, my grandson wouldn't, know this or, have anything to do with this, but I just, hope that we all can just have take a different lens when we're, and I don't know what the basis of the fight, I missed that part, but just speaking about children in general and school settings, but I hope that, we can take a different lens and have a little bit more compassion towards the children, because there's a lot that they're experiencing outside of the schools. A lot of the children are going to empty homes, whether it's not having any parental figures or even not having food in the room or in the home or having beds. I remember in college, one of my friends said that his freshman year in college was the first time that he's ever had his own bed. Things like that we take for granted, and that we don't think about when we do have those things, those, I guess, luxuries, when, to me, to some it may not be. But anyway, I don't know why I said what the basis of the fight, but I'm just wondering, as parents or as leaders in the school, take a deeper look and kind of see and stuff.
Well, he said the basis for the fight, two of the girls jumped this other little girl because that one little girl was, I guess, saying something negative about their deceased little girlfriend. One of the girls had died. Well, I don't know how recently she had passed, but she was saying something negative. And of course, the little girl was wrong to verbally say anything negative about someone dead or alive. But what we're trying to convey, and of course, I'm sure you agree with this as well, it doesn't matter what someone says. You still shouldn't negatively react with physical touch with a fight. But you also touched on something very important. We are all a product of our environment, and whether we realize it or not, subconsciously, that which we experience as children, we have a tendency to carry over into our adult lives, even though we don't know why we are doing that. And those behaviors and those outlooks and definitions of things, of how we perceive life and how we handle life, it is based upon the product of us being a product in our own environment. I used to always notice when my children would go be around certain other people, like if they went somewhere for the weekend, And my mother used to tell us the same thing. And it was true when when I was a child. Whenever we would go away and come back, she said she had to deprogram us because everyone picks up the behaviors of whomever they're around. That's why when you see husbands and wives that have been married for so long, they do after a while, it's usually 20, 30 years, they do end up looking like each other. Even friends, they pick up on behaviors. And the point is with the husband and wife and such as friends as well, when you start hanging around someone, you pick up their habits, you pick up their sayings, you can even pick up some of their bodily movements and you don't even realize it. And you pick up things from each other, some positive, which is great, no complaint there. But then a lot of people, then we all pick up the negative characteristics as well. But people don't realize, some don't, unfortunately, aren't aware that they have picked up certain negative traits from their childhood that is carrying over into their adulthood, which that characteristic shouldn't carry over because it's something they should not want to duplicate or emulate and implement in their lives, but they're not even really aware that they're doing that. I realized, years ago, as I told my kids when I raised them, I see the good and the bad in you from me, your dad, my mom, my dad, their mom, their dad, and so forth and so forth and so forth. And as they used to always say, you got the can't help it. Again, because you have these behaviors that you have actually implemented in your life, mimicked because that was the environment that you lived in, or you are a product of that environment. And again, we pick up good and bad behaviors, even amongst girlfriends, and associates, girlfriends and boyfriends that are just, platonic relationships. Again, you end up picking up each other's habits. And of course, you definitely pick up each other's habits. You and I mimic each other on certain things. I've noticed that he says a lot of things. Well, I say, a lot, and I just noticed that. And you say, I know. You didn't used to say that a lot, but so he's picked even that up from me. But
I have a question for.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have a question for your grandson. So this person that passed away, was this someone that attended your school?
I don't know the detail. I just heard her say that, don't talk smack about my best friend. That's disrespectful. That's the only detail I was given. I don't know anything else.
And I see Antoinette is responding here. Antoinette Heavily Eyes. She said children can influence other children. Yes, they can. Beyond they can. And even adults even a coworker. You work on a job with someone for 10 or 20 years, and even if you don't really see each other outside of that working environment, you still pick up each other's habits. You really can. I just find it to be disheartening that our children are responding with such negative touch, and I hate to be biased, but especially girls. I just think that is so unfortunate that girls are, fighting like that. I've never had a fight with my girlfriends as I was growing up. We've never even argued, even to this day. And I've had some girlfriends that I've been knowing since kindergarten. We've never had negative conversations. If we're perturbed with each other, then we just don't speak for a month or 2 or 3, sometime maybe even a year, especially as an adult because things happen, but things like that. But I remember one time a girlfriend and I, we didn't speak for quite a long time because we were disheartened with each other over something. And of course, it's trivial now that I think about it. But the point is, we respected each other by not disrespecting each other. And that which was upsetting to us, it wasn't so much upsetting that we needed to just get it out on the table and totally discuss it, but we needed our space, just to keep the friendship and love going.
It would be great if the authorities or like the principal or whomever, but there's often like work ethic or professionalism in the workplace, right? You have all these trainings in your place of employment. So it would be great if, the Board of Education, whether it's in Atlanta or New York, can implement something as far around like healthy communication, for children, because, they're either learning how to communicate in their home, on television, social media, unfortunately, is another platform and another discussion for another day.
Oh, yes. That's a whole new world right there. That is so true.
Their peers at school, and oftentimes, they're developing unhealthy communication skills, so I think, hopefully something will come out of this. But it'll be great if they can have that as a class, even, in elementary school, because they're going to need it the rest of their lives. Just healthy communication styles.
Exactly. That is so true. And again, I love interacting with the Cytelis fans on social media. And again, Antoinette has says on here, and she said, yes, they do. She said, refer them to a behavioral counselor if they need help. She said, because the social worker refers the student, and her daughter was referred to one. And she said, social media has turned our kids into non-caring kids. It's like they don't care about anything. Yeah, that's also attributed to their behavior negatively like that. And the reason why, because there's so much on social media that we're not monitoring. Because again, when a child is normally watching TV, when like I was a little girl, well, we had a TV in every room, but as I say, if it's in the living room and you're all in there watching that TV, then the parent can monitor what that child is watching. But when they're on social media in the room, wherever, at school and at the playground, we don't know what they're exposing themselves to. But I won't blame it. Well, nothing can be blamed on anything 100%, but you're so right about that, Internet. Social media has a negative impact on our children, but even the television does today, even with cartoons. What cartoon was that you were watching last year? And I was like, this is just demonic and negative. The little girl, character girl was talking about, oh, we don't like Billy. We're not going to talk to him. Let's just not speak. That's the wrong message in a cartoon. Come on. That was just too much. It was too negative. I don't know what kind of cartoon it was, but I told you to stop watching that. I monitor what he watches all the time. The first 3 to 4 years of your life, all we used to let him watch was Sid the Science Kid. Again, you have to monitor your children and even monitor who their little playmates are. If you see there's a playmate that is could be a negative influence, and for whatever reason you know that you are not able to somewhat reach that child and try and, I don't want to say quickly turn it around, but if you see that this is going to just be a really negative child that you don't want your child to be affiliated with, you have to pull your own child back. And if you know you can't talk to the parent to see why that child is having issues or anger management problems or something like that, then you have to protect your own child and, just, I don't want to say totally disassociate yourself from that child, but limit their interaction. You definitely want to do that. We as adults need to do that. We need to do more of that. And then those that we can love, receive love, and reciprocate love, we want to give more and receive more of that. But on the same token, everyone's not going to be able to socialize with each other. So we have to eliminate and cut off our friendships and interactions amongst each other as well. I don't want you to sit up here and think, well, you know that, you see life. I don't want you to sit up here and think that, oh, just because I become an adult, no one's ever going to be negative. No, children, unfortunately, are just little miniature adults mimicking what, unfortunately, they're really going to become. Because one's character is formulated by the time they are 7 or 8 years old. It doesn't really pretty much deviate much from that as an adult, unless they've had some real catastrophic life experience that scared them straight. Because again, I know I am the same mentally now that I was at probably 8 years. Well, it was eight years old that I can remember. Now, Antoinette, thank you so much for your interaction. She said her problem is not when they get home, it's in the schools too. Exactly. It can be both, but it's really more of a challenge in the school because you know what type of environment you're providing for your child and what you are teaching them and what you're trying to implement in their lives as far as their morals and values are concerned. And then when they're thrown amongst the wolves in the educational system, and unfortunately the teacher can't do her job thoroughly because she has to do more than educate the child now.
Or he.
The teacher, male or female, of course, unfortunately, they're having to do more than educate the child. They're having to spend a lot more time disciplining, and they're over crowded in the school system and each class. So therefore, they can't really monitor the students the way they want to because that ratio is not fair for the ratio of how many students are in the classroom.
That's why a lot of the times
teachers don't also have the proper training as well, because it's not just like a behavior issue, meaning like someone is angry or upset, but a lot of these children now have mental health diagnoses as well and are taking medication.
Yes. Yes, that is so true. There are a lot of behavioral issues. And that's the thing there. I remember a friend of mine, David Phillips, he was I think the state mental health director of Oklahoma. And I remember he told me in the 90s when I had come back from Europe and had moved back to Oklahoma. And he was telling me, of course, he didn't break any patient confidentiality, but he was just telling me, he said, statistically, you would be surprised at how many people that we know are mental illness patients. There are so many people that are going without treatment. They're not being properly diagnosed. And then unfortunately, it's not free. So if you're not set up for Medicaid, and then more importantly, living in a state where Medicaid is provided to you in an abundance, you can just become untreated and just keep, oh goodness, being a menace to society per se. Yeah, and I had a girlfriend die, it's kind of off the topic, but I had a girlfriend die in the 90s because she couldn't afford, because she couldn't afford her medication. So of course, and we don't want any of them to pass away due to that. But the point is, just the same way she could not afford her medication for the illness that she had, so many of the people walking the streets today, they can't afford medication for the treatment that they need. But you were getting ready to say something, and Cece cut you off. What were you getting ready to say?
Let me think.
Well, that's okay. Let me read this right quick. And again, as Antoinette says, she said her problem is not when they get home, it's when they're in the schools. And she said, yes, she agrees with that. It's so true. But yeah, it's, again, I just don't, when I went to school and junior high and high school, I saw a couple of fights in elementary, but it was mainly when we were playing soccer. Every morning before school, we would play, not soccer, yeah, it was soccer. We would play soccer before class began in the morning, because, we're all, 7, 8, 9, 10, just full of energy. So the only time we would have any negative contact is when someone thought someone was cheating, playing the kickball. But that still never turned out to be a fight. When I was in junior high and high school, zero tolerance for any type of negative behavior as far as fighting and negative physically touching someone. Can't see you, turn a little bit more that way, put your arm down. And so therefore, I grew up in an environment at the schools I attended, thank goodness, because it was a magnet school. Carver Middle School and Booker T. Washington High School in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Shout out to the BTW Hornets and the Carver Wildcats. We had zero tolerance for any type of behavioral issues, and you actually received one strike. So I never ever saw a fight at those schools. I did see some students get misplaced and put in other schools, but it was basically because of their GPA. But I thank God that I attended schools where there was no fighting, there was no negative behavior. Plus, you had to be accepted to go to those public schools that I went to, the magnet schools. So we all wanted to be there. So really those who I saw that did have to leave, it was mainly due to academics. It was never based upon fighting or anything like that. But I know what society is not in that type of bubble worldwide. So I think it's very unfortunate how children are being subjected. So let me ask you this. How do you feel going to school every day? Do you feel nervous, threatened, anxious? Do you feel like you got to watch your back and things like that? Or again, the fighting that they did have is, somewhat far and few and in between?
I don't really get into drama because I know it always leads into bigger stuff. The small stuff always leads into bigger stuff.
Right.
So when I'm arguing with someone, I'm just like, let me just stop myself before this increases to another level, because it most likely will, and I don't want that to happen.
And what humans don't realize, and I just say humans because I see it in every race, every culture, and every age of every person, is that most people don't realize that just because you disagree with something, it doesn't have to be an argument. I don't argue with people. I have, but I eliminate those type of people in my life when they want to argue. I just won't deal with that. So, but you said you kind of stopped the conversation before that argument led to something even more negative. Was it a screaming match, or it was just you guys weren't agreeing with each other? Because to me, just because we don't agree with each other's stance, that's not an argument. To me, when I hear the word argument, I think of you screaming and all that. And I think that's just some of the most ignorant behavior. I just can't deal with that. And, if I know any humans that partake in stuff like that, I just don't deal with them much longer. Because if we can't calmly discuss something, I'm not going to be dealing with anything. Yeah, but I just choose not to do that. So again, I want to understand, when you said that you stopped before the argument got out of hand, was it an actual argument? Or?
Oh, no, it wasn't like an actual yelling argument. It was more of a
getting upset because we're not agreeing with what each other's
Yeah,
saying?
like a
Or
strong disagreement. Like, you know
Okay.
how, like, you're on a test and it says strongly disagree, disagree,
Right,
agree,
right, right.
strongly agree. We were like strongly disagree. But
But the person that you were having that strong disagreement with, do you think that person was mature enough to calmly continue that discussion, but not get so heated about it? See, then that's
yeah,
what's
that's what I was talking to
unfortunate.
myself. I was like, no, I'm not even going to continue. I'm just going to leave right now because something's going to escalate and
Yeah,
just.
that's too bad. And
Well,
here's.
I'm sorry. I think to commend you, your grandson, Cam'Ron? It's
Yes.
Cam'Ron, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I definitely commend you for doing the right thing and being able to, understand the significance of not becoming, in a physical altercation and having more so a conversation or even just taking the time to think out the consequences.
Right.
So I definitely commend you, young man. And thank you so much, Sai, and I hope you all have a great evening.
Oh, you as well. You have a great evening as well. Thank you so much for calling in, Cece. We really appreciate you for that.
Yeah.
And God bless.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. And Antoinette commented more. She said, yes, she's a living witness. She's experienced mental illness herself. And you're right. If you don't have insurance, it's hard to be seen. And don't talk about the cost of medicine. It's ridiculous. She said, I'm just grateful to have medical coverage, but I have suffered because of no health insurance. I totally get that. Again, one of my girlfriends literally died in the 70s because she couldn't afford her medication. One pill was $700. Everyone doesn't just have, I think she needed 3 pills a month, $2,100 laying around each month. And she literally died. It was some type of respiratory ailment. And I think it was somewhat contagious because she used to help take care of a patient that had that same illness. And then she ended up acquiring that illness. She really, really did. Now, also what I wanted to touch on here and ask you, Cam'Ron, is that do you think you could possibly try and even get a discussion group, even inviting the girls who had the fight, like even to the next show next time? Because I think that for the Tellus Children's Talk It Out TV show, which is broadcast every fourth Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, where the co-host is
Cam'Ron, me,
and
Sion.
And Landon. He's
Oh,
not
and
here today.
Landon, and Landon.
And Landon. And again, the guest that was scheduled for me today, they had an emergency. Things happened, but they're going to reschedule at a later date. So whenever that happens, this is going to be me and my grandson. So, but I think that would be a great topic of discussion. Why don't you ask them that? What I'll do is get some flyers ready, so you can give them to them if they're at school, if they didn't get expelled. But even to some of the other students, because again, children and adults, but mainly children, for now, we need to implement and show them that just because we don't agree with something doesn't mean we need to have a negative conversation about it and get so heated. Because again, that it's an old cliche statement, but we have got to learn to agree to disagree. I don't agree with everything I say and do, so I'm definitely not going to agree with everything someone else says and does. That's just not going to happen. That is not going to happen. So do you think that they would be willing to do that, or some of the other children?
I don't know.
Did you know these girls that got into that fight?
Not really that much.
Okay, and the reason why I asked that, I was going to ask if you knew them, well, you would know if they would be, accepting of being on a show like this. Now, I'm also on a prayer line, and one of the ladies on the prayer line was talking about how one of her grandchildren was subjected to violence and witnessing that at the school. And I think it was someone else's grandson, who's a special needs child, I believe, but he was being teased and all those things. So he brought a knife to school to protect himself. So again, we need to work in a preventive measure to where our children don't feel the need to bring weapons up to the school.
It's unnecessary.
Oh my goodness, haven't been any weapons that your school has there. I would say you let me know about that, because I would definitely go up there and discuss that. I'm like, what do we need to do as a parent? And if nothing else, we need to rally around that parent of the child who's bringing weapons to see what we can do as a community to help you
maintain your child to realize that no matter what's going on, and hopefully none of the children told him were going to bring a knife or gun, so he better bring his own. Hopefully that wasn't the case. But my thing is that I don't want any child, I would never want you to leave home talking, oh, Billy's going to beat me, I'm going to take this butcher knife, mama. You know, my goodness. You see my point? I don't want you to think that you would have to come to that conclusion, and really any other child. So my heart just melted when I heard on the prayer line when we were, lifting them up in prayer for the child that felt the need to bring a knife to protect themselves. That is just totally unacceptable. I just can't imagine. And don't get me wrong, I grew up in a somewhat interracial neighborhood, but it was a majority blacks. I think it kind of infiltrated the area. I think we were really like the third or fourth black family to move in. And unfortunately, sometimes when that happens in communities, as the blacks move in, the non-blacks move out. And so that's kind of ended up happening after maybe a 10 or 15 year span. But my thing is, I thank God that I wasn't around any type of violence in our neighborhood. And I don't ever remember our childhood friends, like Monty, Sonia, Patricia, Bardo, Junebug, look, the Coxes, the Williams, the Wilsons, the Eric Bryan and his brother, and Tim Owens, and I'm just visualizing everyone in our neighborhoods. None of us ever fought. Never. If anybody got in an argument, it was me, Sonia, and Patricia when we were playing jacks. That's it. But when we would all play neighborhood basketball, neighborhood baseball, the second tree is the tree is second base. The point is, none of us never, ever argued or fought each other. And if we did have a disagreement, it was mainly over whatever sport we were playing. But children then had a different mindset, truly. And that what the culture is existing today, it does determine how one's outlook and perception is on life. And social media and it started before social media, when they just started letting all this trash on TV, all this sex, all this violence, all these violent games, when they stopped playing pure little Pac-Man, and started letting all these shoot 'em up video games into it. Again, all those things slowly conditioned and changed our society. When they took prayer out of the schools, that was the first downfall. When they took out when they took out wood shop, when they took out auto mechanics, when they took out metal shop, and then even when they took out some schools even providing instruments for our children to play. Again, all these things were negative impacts to our society that took away that kinder, gentler nation per se of how we interacted with each other. And it really is a sad situation. So again, Lord help us all. Again, on the Side Show, we believe in God. So God, please continue to watch over us and intervene and help us and do whatever needs to be done. Let me see. So that is really unfortunate situation. So now, do you think that the educators are the standard at your school for the children? Do you think they set the standard where they expect you to be respectful towards each other and to be nonviolent, but to be caring and sharing and to intelligently learn to have a discussion and disagreement? Is that the expectation of your school?
It's the expectation, but it's not the reality.
Okay, so an expectation then is irrelevant if it's not being implemented.
Yeah, the
so
expectation.
I can't wait to go to one of those parent-teacher conference meetings, but I keep telling me I need to have it at a time when I'm not at work. And what does Antoinette saying on here as well? Yeah, she said, wow, that's ridiculous, but those things happen. Children can be very cruel and out of control when they get to that point. That is so true. And that's why she invites the kids in her apartment complex to church. Amen. And let me go back. And that's why she invites them to church and to teach them what God says about confusion and mess. And most of all, I want them to know Jesus Christ and why we are born. I even invite my children's friends. They are going to know his mother right here. Amen. Amen. Again, and we don't mean to offend any atheists or whomever who doesn't believe in the Lord, but you're going to hear us probably talk about God in a positive impact whenever I have the Side Show, because he's all around us. He brought us here safely even tonight. Praise the Lord. Atlanta's great, but they have a lot of wrecks because, people are in a hurry. And I think it's because a lot of everyone has a really kind of a long commute. So I think that's, I guess, trying to justify it for them, but I guess they're just trying to get to where they're trying to go real quickly, so therefore they're not driving it safely. But again, the point is, yeah, the very great point. Answer that again. Try and create that village and surround those children and put them in an environment of love. And again, and see, that's how I was raised too. Every parent in my neighborhood could spank me, but they never had to because they could discipline me verbally, and I was always obedient because that was the era in which I was raised and the way I have raised you. And so, but you're a good boy, and I'm not just blind saying that, because again, I have to get on you about cleaning up your room, minor things like that. And every blue moon, I just have to tell you to watch your tone, but you have never just outright disrespected me. And some kids do that, you know, and that's unfortunate. All little boys and girls, if you're listening to this, if you're being negative and disrespectful to anyone, and especially your parent, you know, you just need to really stop that. That is just not acceptable. It truly is not acceptable. So tell me something else that you want to talk about. Be creative. Look at the camera. Think about it. And let's talk about it. Let's get started. I wish I had some more music in here. I think I'm going to start doing that too. And sometimes you just need to hear a little bit of music to just get things pepping and going.
Yeah, there is a bell.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, we can jam it and jam it. I forgot about the bell. So this has been a great show, and tell them about your information about your show, and just tell them, give them the information.
The information
because we're gonna close it out.
My show, yeah, the information about my show.
Tell the name of your show, when it's broadcast, what's it about.
5 minutes to do this. So the information for my show is the Side Tell Us Talk It Out TV show. Yeah, the Side Tell Us Talk It Out TV show, which is going to be produced on the 4th Wednesdays of the month, because sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the show might not be broadcasted for like 3 weeks, because we're talking about the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month, not every 2nd and 4th exact Tuesdays, you know?
Not every 2 weeks is what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
It's not every other week. It's literally every 4th Tuesday.
Yeah.
For your show.
Yeah, for my
the
show.
Side Tell Us Children's Talk It Out show. What does that mean? What does that title mean? What type of show is that?
Talk it out. Talk anything out that you want to talk about. It's just spit everything out that you need to talk about, or that you even at least feel like talking about, you know?
Okay, cool. So are there things that you want to talk about with your friends, but you don't want to talk about with me or your parents sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes. And
you think you'd be better off having those discussions with your friends? Okay. And why do you think you feel that way? Honestly, there's no wrong answer. I'm not going to get offended.
I'm not going to lie. Sometimes you can talk disrespectful to your friends and it's fun. But as long as you don't mean it in a wrong way, it's okay. So you try and say disrespectful stuff, but it's not in a bad way. So, for example, you say, oh, blah, blah, blah is doing too much. But you can't say that to your parents. You can't be like, yo, you're doing too much. Dang, what's wrong with you? You can't say that to your parents because, you know, right upside the head. Like, it's just messed up. So you take it out on, well, that's a bad choice of words. You talk it out. Children's talk it out. You talk it out with your friends and, you know, just get a solution and just wrap it up, you know?
I see what you're saying. So you can be more lax in the terminology that you use when you have a discussion. And as you said, you may say something that's disrespectful, but it's not taken that way when it's someone amongst your own age.
Yeah, because we know what it means.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Okay. Well, let me just give you my version of what the Side Tell Us Children's Talk It Out TV show is about. Again, it's going to be every 4th Tuesday, broadcast here at Status Network through Live TV on Roku, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. What is that? Amazon, and yes, all on those broadcasts live. And then you can also watch them again on all of those networks, especially on the Status Network app. You want to go to the Play Store, download the Status Network app. And again, if you have any children that want to be part of the studio, have them part of the studio discussion on those fourth Tuesdays. Have them email me at saytellus@gmail.com. It looks like saytellus@gmail.com. There's a minimal fee to participate in the studio audience. Of course, there's nothing to call in on the phone. We don't do anything like that. We don't charge anything like that. We don't charge for anything like that. So contact us if you want your child to be part of those discussions on every fourth Tuesday. And then on the second Tuesdays on the Side Tell Us show, anything can happen, any guest and any topic of discussion. Whether it's for a child or an adult.
The future of broadcasting, isn't that it?
Yes, Status Network. The future of broadcasting. So let's close this out. We'll see you next time on the fourth Tuesday of February. And so we're just going to take it out and play our music because I want to keep on dancing. Because when you're on the Side Tell Us TV show, we're going to be good to you.